Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Profiles in Risk. I am your host, Nick Lamparelli. Very pleased to have a guest. We were chatting about how social media just makes you friends. This is the first time we've actually been able to talk to one another, but I feel like I've known Ben for a while. Ben Baker is the president of Your Brand Marketing. Your Brand Marketing helps you retain and grow your rock star millennial employees. Just so fitting for insurance nerds and the conversation we're going to have. Seems like we've been friends for a while. Welcome.
Well, it's nice because we've been talking about doing this for forever.
Yeah.
Absolutely forever. And, I love writing columns for you guys. I love what you guys are doing. I love the passion of the industry that you guys have. And thank you for adopting me into the insurance, nerds community. I feel like, like this vicariously, I'm part of the community.
The more, the merrier. And anyone that has the sort of the same vibe and the same, altruistic motives belongs in what it is we're trying to do, because the pie is big enough. We're just trying to help everybody.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love the fact that, that this community just seems to share. So thanks for bringing me in, because it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, now let's share you.
Sounds good.
With the rest of the community. I kick off every episode by giving you a little soapbox to talk about you and talk about your company. So first talk about you, but also Your Brand Marketing. What are you all about?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. Your Brand Marketing started off 12 years ago when I had a partner. He and I had been doing business for about 12 years, 10 years at the time, and it was time to move on. And it was one of those things where he went his way, I went my way. I was a junior partner at the time. He had like 90% of the company, and maybe I had 10. And I realized that what my clients really wanted from me was that personalized service. It was being more strategic in our communication. First of all, we're a branding and marketing strategy firm. What we do is we sit in the branding and marketing strategy pocket to be able to help people communicate more effectively. And our clients are business to business. They range in about $10 to about $80 million. And where we came from is the fact that our clients really need help communicating. How do they tell their story more effectively? And, that's really where the impetus of Your Brand Marketing came from. It was being able to sit there and tell people stories in an effective way, in an engaging way, compelling way that people cared who they were, because a lot of people can't articulate the value of their brand effectively. And that's what I really try to do.
It's so underappreciated.
It is.
Like that's one of my big frustrations is, for some reason, folks think because they can talk, they can communicate.
Right.
And those are not the same things. And your inability to communicate your brand or your message or your solution is essentially shooting yourself in the foot. You'd be better off not saying anything than stumbling through that, because it conveys a lack of confidence, so to speak. And so, I want to spend quite a bit of this time like really unpacking what that means, what communication means, what branding means. And so in your opinion, to kind of simplify it for the audience, a brand, what's the significance of a brand? How would you define the value of it?
Yeah. A brand, to me, I love what Jeff Bezos says. To me, it's the simplest, most articulate way to describe a brand. A brand is how people talk about you when you're not in the room. Is probably the best way to articulate what a brand is. It's not a logo. It's not a color palette. It's not a vision and mission statement. It's who you are as a company. It's what you believe in. What do you fight for? What do you fight against? What is the hill you're willing to die on? And who do you serve? How do you help these people? How do you show a certain audience that, what, I am for you. This is what I am. This is what I do. And this is how I help you be better at whatever, every problem that you're having. That to me is what a brand really is. I mean, the logo is just an avatar. It's a
Hmm.
placeholder. The Nike swoosh, we don't even need the word Nike anymore. But Nike is not, about clothing. Nike isn't about an idea of excellence. It's about getting people to be the best of who they can be and be able to push themselves to be able to excel. That's what the Nike brand is all about.
Yeah.
It's not about tennis shoes or golf clubs or whatever. It is about excellence, and it's about personal excellence. And more companies need to understand what their brand truly is.
Yeah. To me, the swoosh from the Nike brand only makes sense once you understand the brand.
True.
Like the swoosh just adds value because it makes it, because Nike, when I think of Nike, I think of athletes.
Yeah.
I think of athletic excellence. And the swoosh to me is just like it's symbolic for a fast moving athlete.
Yeah.
It only makes sense if the brand deals with athletic excellence.
Yeah.
If they can't convey that message, then the swoosh is just a symbol. It doesn't mean anything, but it means so much more when you can link it to who you actually are. I always think of like companies like Southwest Airlines,
Yeah. That's a
and
great brand.
and what they do, and because the industry is as bad as stereotypes as bad as insurance.
Yeah.
And for generations, they have stood out for the types of things that they would do to sell themselves, to sell their brand, to be who they are. So, how do companies go about doing that? I remember reading, Ben. I remember reading once where it's like your customers define your brand, not you.
Absolutely.
So, how can companies, how can individuals listening to this
Right.
help define their brand, help to I don't want to say coax their customers, or how help me out here.
Okay. You know what? As you're right. Your brand is truly how people think about you. But as a company, as a person, because I also I speak on personal branding. I also speak on corporate branding. It's how you present yourself. The more consistent you are, doesn't matter where you are, whether you're on social media, whether you're on a vast array of social medias, whether you're talking to somebody on the telephone, whether you're sending somebody an email, you're writing a blog, you're live at a conference somewhere, you send somebody direct mail, whatever you do, those are touch points of your brand. And if you're doing something in one place and then doing something else in a different place, you're doing your brand a disservice. You are your brand. You are one person across the medium. Now, you may talk about different aspects of your brand on LinkedIn that you would on Facebook versus Instagram, but it's all just facets of what your brand is.
Yeah.
And you're going to talk about your brand differently based on the mediums, but the message is all going to be the same. The value of the brand will be the same. Yeah. And the more you can be consistent, the better off your brand really is. Here's this great story. Go back to Southwest Airlines. Is after 9/11, the CEO, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, of Southwest Airlines got a letter from a person who really said that they were leaving Southwest. They had been a loyal Southwest customer for years, and they were leaving Southwest Airlines because after 9/11, the Southwest employees went back to their jocular, safety routine where they get up and they do their song and dance on for the safety routine and everything. And this person said, after 9/11, you guys should be a lot more serious about this. And I really don't like the fact that you guys are just taking it just as irreverently as you did always. And the comment that this guy wrote back, and he wrote back in his own handwriting saying, "We're sorry to let you go." But their brand is their brand is their brand, and that's who they are.
It's
that's
amazing.
Their culture. That's they're not going to change who they are and their essence of their company based on the needs and the wants and the desires of a single person. You resonate as a company with a certain audience. There's people that like you. There's people that don't like you. There's people that will buy from you. There's people that will never buy from you. And if you focus all your time and your energy and your efforts on trying to please the people that will never buy from you, you're going to disappoint the people that are your true brand champions.
Mm-hmm.
So better that you figure out who those people are and wow them and give them customer experience that they can't believe, than worry about the people that, you know what, are not part of your tribe.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement right there. I think focusing on your champions is going to be emotionally very difficult for a lot of business leaders.
It is.
You know, because it's I can't go into a pitch. I can't go meet an investor or a VC without them talking about the scaling opportunities.
Yes.
We're all constantly looking beyond the customers we already have, and I think part of your message is that if we continuously please the ones that we currently have, not only will we get more business from them, we'll get more like them, more
Exactly.
business, a new business like them.
Yeah. I mean, Seth Godin is famous for saying people like us do things like this. And what he means by that is that when you have a tribe, when you have a group of people that you can absolutely, you know, that love you, that love what you do, that believe in you, that know that you solve their problems, that can rely on you, they're going to tell people like them. And that's how your brand grows. You know, this scalability philosophy of people that says, you know what, if somebody's got a heartbeat and a Visa card, they are our client, is just not true. Because you can spend hundreds of millions of dollars trying to acquire people that will leave you in a heartbeat when somebody else offers them something that's new and shiny.
Yeah.
So why are you focusing on those people that are not loyal, do not see value in what you do not understand your brand, and are just buying from you because you're cheap today, instead of focusing on the people that are going to be loyal to you thick and thin, are going to allow you to make mistakes as long as you make them with their thoughts in mind, and are going to forgive you and still be with you and still be loyal, you know, through thick and thin, because you take care of them.
It's actually less risky.
It's far less risky.
I hadn't even thought of it that way, but if you bring risk and time, time is money.
Yeah.
And it's the most precious resource we have. When you bring those two elements in, it's actually less resource dependent and less risky to actually focus more resources and more attention on the people who are already your champions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, look at the telco industry, for example. The telco industry is perfect. They spend millions and millions, if not billions of dollars a year giving you, you know, your cell phone for free. If you're a new customer, you can get your cell phone for free, but you have to sign up for a 2-year plan or whatever you have to sign up for. But if you have been a loyal client for those, you know, to that company for the last 5, 10, 15 years, you don't get that same deal.
Yeah.
How does that make the people that have already invested hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars, when they know that the people that have never, you know, spent a dime with this company are getting a better deal than they are?
Yeah. I have a recent story. I just got, so I've been a SiriusXM customer for years.
Mm-hmm.
Came with my car. I ended up buying the license, love it. I can travel anywhere in the country and get commercial-free radio.
Nice.
And I installed it on a second car and, you know, called them up. They kind of set me up, and then they gave me the price tag. I was like, but I saw that you were having like a 6-month promotion. And they're like, no, that's for new customers. Like, well, you know, I was bummed out. You know, I didn't feel special at all.
No.
From them. And, you know, going forward, I would think twice about running through that whole thing again. You know, it wouldn't be worth my while. I see exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And that translates to any industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. I mean, if we're spending far more time focusing on the acquisition of our clients, what are we doing to the people who truly are our clients? Are we truly treating these people that have invested time, energy, and effort with us more special than the new clients that we're bringing in the table.
Yeah.
And those people who are already our clients should feel that they're the most important people in the world to us, because they're the people who have invested in us. They're the people that have been with us through thick and thin, and they're the people that have recommended us to others.
Yeah. Insurance is notorious.
Oh.
1-year contracts, 6-month policies. We are starting to see now, I don't know which auto companies have it, but if if you've been accident free for a while, they'll waive the deductible, which is nice, right? They waive the deductible, and if you leave to go to another company, the deductible is going to come back in. So they're planting value related elements into their contract, which makes it more difficult for them to leave,
Right.
more financially painful for
Yes.
them to leave. But if they're with you and they do have an accident, the deductible gets waived, so it is an actual benefit to them, and that's something that a new customer doesn't get. It could be something that could make them feel special, but it just feels like the insurance industry is so there's a veritable paucity of those types of branding efforts. It's they get upset when customers treat them like commodities, but they treat their own products like commodities.
Absolutely. I mean, as somebody who buys a lot of insurance, and I do, both personally for for the business, for whatever. I mean, I probably spend, with healthcare insurance, all that. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year. I couldn't tell you my broker's name. I couldn't tell you what they look like. I couldn't tell you whether they knew my name if I called up, or knew if I called them up, if they knew what policies that I actually had with them. I call them up once a year, check over my policy, and hope to God that I'm actually getting the right coverage for what I need. But the only way I'm ever going to know whether what I bought is actually good for me or not is if I have a claim.
Yeah.
I mean, and then it's too late.
Yeah.
Then you're at the mercy of whatever is right in front of you at that point in time.
Yeah. And to me, as you're describing that, I'm thinking, agents and brokers that are kind of rubbing their hands, wringing their hands like, whoa, woe is me. Look at all this technology that's coming out. They're trying to knock us out. If they do exactly what you're just describing, they can't get knocked out of the equation. If they know their customer, if they know their customer's interests, if they show sympathy, empathy for their customer, if they know how many kids they have and their names and birthdays and stuff like that, basically old school salesmanship.
Absolutely.
You do that, it's going to be tough for a bot to dislodge you from that relationship.
Listen, we used to do a ton of work years ago with one of the casinos, and every year on your birthday, you got a birthday card, and it said, why don't you bring Sally, Bob, and Alan with you? Because guess what? We had all that data. We knew exactly who you came down with, what games they played. And if you were a high roller, you got $50 US for $50 Canadian or whatever. You got a free piece of birthday cake, and you got a free lunch. And your friends who came with you got a free piece of birthday cake. So not only were we bringing you down, but we were bringing down the people that you like to be there with. So we were using technology. We were using the technology to build the people, but once you got in the door, we knew who you were. And we built the experience, and you came up to a special host that made sure that you got seated at a special table, that you had service and a birthday card, and that everything got with you. And they actually staff that actually saying happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of, technology is not an evil thing if it's used right. If it's used to be able to put the right information in the right fingertips of people so they can take there and turn it into amazing customer experience.
Yep.
And that's what it's there for.
So I'm going to put myself in the listener's shoes. Ben, I hear what you're saying. Man, that sounds overwhelming. I don't even know where to start. So what are some of the critical first steps? How does someone get started getting the branding messaging right and going through some of some of the elements that you just discussed?
I think the number one thing is to go through, who am I today and who do I want to be? If you can sit there and say, this is where I am today, I'm either happy with it or I'm not happy with it. And this is where I want to be. These are the type of clients that I want to deal with. This is the type of work that I want to do. This is where I see my value. And be able to sit there and figure out, okay, where am I today? Where do I want to go? And figure out where the holes in the dike are. And if you can figure out where those holes in the dike are, which is a lot of it is reflection, sitting there going, okay, what are my competitors doing that I'm not? And don't try to be your competitors. The worst thing you can do is to be your competitors, but to at least be aware of what they're doing and what their value is, and sit there and say, okay, how am I different from them? What makes me different? And then actually go out and talk to your customers. Actually physically take them for lunch, take them for coffee, have some conversations with your top clients and sit there and say, why do you buy from us? What are the things that we do differently from our competitors? What are the things that, that you would like to see us do that we're not currently doing? What are some neat things that you've seen in the industry that you think that, it would benefit you if we could do those things for you? What are the types of, products and services that you're looking for that are, very, conducive for us to do for you that we're not currently doing?
Yeah.
So if you can ask those questions and actually sit down and talk to people, you're going to have a far better understanding of where the gaps are and the easy things you can do to fix them.
Yeah. And you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to be not defensive, because your customer could say that your product is shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have crappy service, whatever, and you have to be able to accept that, because if they're saying that, being defensive is not going to be helpful to you. If they're saying it and that's what they think, they're defining your brand. So if it gets back all the way back to what you said at the beginning, which is, if that's what they believe and you're just trying to advertise or market on top of that, it's just putting lipstick on a pig. It's still pig.
Here's a perfect example. About 6 or 8 weeks ago, there was a recall notice on my Ford Edge. It says the airbags were defective. Didn't tell me how many airbags, didn't tell me which airbag, whatever. I chased it for almost 8 weeks before I finally was able to make an appointment with my Ford dealership, because they said, well, we're out. We can't get product. Okay. I said, is it safe for me to drive the car? Yes, it's okay for you to drive the car. Okay, fine. So I finally book an appointment. They say it's going to take an hour. Okay, no problem. I'll just sit in the dealership and get some work done for that hour. I get there. First of all, the guy who was actually bringing me in and doing my paperwork couldn't care less who I was, had no idea what I was in there for, was run off his feet and didn't, I didn't really matter. And it said, oh, by the way, it's going to be 3 hours. And when I mentioned something, he says, well, you know what? It takes time to get it onto the hoist. And was his only thing, not, can we take you somewhere? Can we do something for you? What can we do? Turns out he pushed it and got it in an hour and out in an hour, but that's fine. But in the end, I got a customer service report or a survey from the people. And I said, here's the challenges. Here's the things that went right. Here's the things that went wrong. And I said, and these are the things that really went wrong. And here's the person's name. And honestly, he shouldn't be in a customer service position, because you know what? He should be in the back, away from customer people. Well, we're sorry that you feel that way. We'll try to do better next time.
Lip service.
All it was lipstick on a pig. And they lost the opportunity to have me come in and do my oil changes there and buy my tires there and buy a new car from them and whatever, because I got a there, now. And if that's what companies are going to do, if all you're going to do is give your customers a there, now, they're going to go somewhere else. And I absolutely will.
I think a lot of business owners, business operators forget that falling on your sword and then repairing that is actually a sign that you're listening to your customer. And Selling the Invisible by Harry Beckwith
Mm-hmm.
I think came out in the early 90s. It's such an old book now. And I remember there was a short story in there about him. He ordered a suit from some tailor in Minneapolis. He went to pick it up. It wasn't ready. He was fuming,
Yeah.
right? Just like you. Like it was the opposite of what they told him
Yeah.
would happen. The gentleman said, "Hold on." He went back. He said, "I'm so sorry. Give me 1 hour. I promise it'll be done." And it was done. And in the story, he talks about how not only did he walk out with that suit, he walked out with like a couple more jackets,
Yeah.
pants, socks, shirts. Why? Because he felt like he was listened to and he was respected.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity for you to overcome a problem that occurred. Own up to it.
Anybody can make a mistake.
Yeah.
Everybody
does.
I make mistakes.
Yeah.
We all make mistakes. It's how we recover for them. It's how we can sit there and say, how can we help you make this better?
Yeah.
So it makes their life better. Not that it makes our life better, that it makes our customers' life better. Because if we can make our customers' lives better, if we can recover from that problem and make it better for them, they're going to turn around and tell everybody, says, you know what? There was a mistake, but they fixed it. They absolutely fixed it. They stepped up to the plate. They admitted they made a mistake, and they made it right.
Yeah.
And
it makes you feel important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And those are the little things that make good companies great. By empowering your staff, the companies that empower their staff to make things right are the companies that grow year after year after year.
Yeah. So this one example is a great segue to two questions that I have for you. And one is on culture, because you just talked about empowering your staff. So let us not end this conversation without going deep into culture.
Okay.
But we talked about how the act of fixing a problem right then and there is listening.
Yeah.
The customer spoke, and you rushed with urgency to fix that problem. You're actually listening to your customer, which is a sign of respect. How would you define the difference between active listening and just listening? Because I think this is another area where I think people think, well, because I can talk, I can communicate, and people think because I can hear, I'm listening.
Yeah.
I think they're confusing those things. How would you differentiate between someone who's just listening and someone who's actively listening?
Well, you want the true definition, ask my wife. I mean, we all sit there and say, our wives say, are you listening to me? And that's really the thing is, are we actually listening to participate in the conversation? Or are we just nodding our heads?
Mm-hmm.
Are we just saying, yeah, okay, fine. Would you just say what you need to say so I can move on to what I need to get done? Or are you actually sitting there and intently listening to understand what is the issue that somebody's having? What are they trying to tell you? What are they trying to get across? What is the problem that they're having? What's the frustration that they're having? And be able to fix it. That's why I hate email and social media so much, is that it's really hard to get the nuance of a conversation the way that you can on a Zoom call, on a telephone call, on a one-to-one, where you can read not only the sounds that are coming out of somebody's mouth, but you can look at them and you can read it in their eyes and their body language, and all those type of things, all the cues, that the nonverbal cues where the real story is told. And the more you can sit there and understand, listen to understand, and listen to empathize, and listen to sit there and say, okay, what does this person need to me? Do they just need me to just say, geez, I'm really sorry? Or do they need me to say, geez, I'm really sorry. Here's a couple of ideas of how we can fix this. Which one would be best for you? Because some people just want to be heard. Mm-hmm. Some people don't need a solution. Some people don't need you to be the white knight charging in. They just want to be heard. And it's understanding what is important to that person. Yep. And to me, that's the biggest thing between listening and active listening.
Yep. So how do we get our organizations to actively listen? How do we get our organizations to instill a culture that even if the business owner believes in everything you're saying, if the staff doesn't believe it, if the staff's not religious about it, then it might as well not occur at all. because they sort of have agency over the execution of it. So how do we establish that culture?
I think culture is built through storytelling. And I'm a big believer that storytelling is a big thing with culture. If you closed your eyes, spun me around, or I closed my eyes, spun me around 3 times and looked at a wall that had a mission and vision statement on it, I'd never remember it. I truly would. I'd never remember somebody, even if it's my own mission and vision statement. Most people don't do it because there aren't cues and keys that ingrain it into your brain. But if you can tell a story of who you were, who you are, what you believe, where you're going, who your customers are, and the value that you add to them, and why these people are important to you, it allows that story to build throughout the organization. And if you can do that from the minute people walk in the door, and it all comes down, it really does. It comes onto onboarding processes. How do you get people to understand the values of the organization? What are important? What do we do to help people? And it's got to be lived from the CEO all the way down. Because if the CEO doesn't buy into it, it doesn't matter what's being said. But if we're all living the culture, if managers understand, and VPs understand, and regular workers understand, and if everybody understands this is what we do and this is why we do it and this is who we do it for, and be able to tell that in their own way, it becomes ingrained. And that's how culture is built.
Yeah. I love the onboarding part, because I think the vast majority, I'm not even like a 75% majority. I think the numbers in the 90s do a crappy job.
Or more.
It's just
more.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It might be a 1% thing.
Yeah.
You know, where 1% of the companies are getting it right. And in my business career, I could think of one company that sort of got it right.
Yeah.
A couple have done a decent job, and most have done like a really horrible job doing that. And so what kind of techniques can you use for onboarding? I'm assuming there needs to be a plan in place, but like how much should like current employees have a say? I bet like if you quiz them, they would tell you. I would volunteer for some of my old companies to say, listen, I showed up and no, you guys weren't even ready for me.
Yeah.
You didn't have a machine or a desk ready for me. Then you gave me a temporary laptop for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That was a piece of garbage.
And
like,
there's no business cards.
Care.
You know, even something as simple as that your business cards are sitting on. Companies have great culture when you get these LinkedIn and Instagram pictures of all the promotional products that people have sitting at their desk the day they walk in their office. There's a coffee mug, there's a mouse pad, there's a set of business cards. It doesn't have to be much. But when you walk in and there are logoized company stuff sitting at your desk in your size, it says a lot to sit there going, you know what, this company this company, cares about me.
They were sincere. They were thoughtful.
Yeah. I mean, if you go onto my website, onto yourbrandmarketing.com, you go into the ebooks, there's an ebook, top 10 ways to increase employee engagement and company loyalty. So I've written, and I'll send, if you want, I'll send you a link to that. So you have that.
Yep.
But it allows people to understand that until we can build a culture that everybody believes in, it doesn't mean anything. If all there is lip service to culture, if all there is lip service to the beliefs and the values of the company, nobody believes in it, and all of a sudden, people are 1 foot out the door before their desk is even warm.
And it matters even more today. I no longer like the word millennial because they're getting older now. Now there's like another generation coming behind them.
Gen Z's coming up.
So let's just call them young professionals.
Sure.
Coming out, and they will be conducting business in a completely different way than the way we've conducted business. And I see it all the time. I see it from people of my generation who have resentment towards that, and it's to me, that's part of the culture. Like I have to try to convince my older team that, listen, this is the way that they want to work.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, it comes down to, are they getting the work done, and is it of high quality, and do the customers like it? Like,
That's
is
right.
it fulfilling the brand promise?
Exactly.
And to me, that's all that matters. So I wanted to give you, for you to discuss culture in the environment of a next generation that's digital native and will not maybe, but they will be conducting business in a diametrically different way than we're conducting business.
They already are. They already are. I mean, don't forget your leading edge, millennials are already in their 30s.
Yeah.
They're already taking director level jobs. And so they are already in management positions and leading, divisions within companies. I mean, there are amazing things that they're doing, and it's understanding that there is no right way, there is no wrong way. It's taking care of the customer. And it's the trick is getting millennials to understand that there's other people that think differently than they do in terms of customers and what those particular needs are, and actually training them on how to communicate intergenerationally. And there's also the fact of teaching managers and vice VPs and CEOs how to communicate with the next generation and be able to instill loyalty and aspiration and vision. Because the problem is, everybody thinks that the millennials are lazy and that they want, they're disloyal and they want to move to the next job, and that, they'll drop you at a moment's notice and go to a next job. Who wants to be out there interviewing? I don't care who you are. Nobody wants to be sitting there with a resume in their hands out there looking for another job. People leave companies because they don't see vision, they don't see progression, they don't see how they particularly matter within the company and how their efforts help the company grow. And if you can help people at any level understand that and be able to build that into your business process, that it's not a once a year 360 assessment, it's not a casually every once in a while. It's effective and ongoing communication and being able to let them know the little things that they're doing right as they're doing them right, the little things that they're doing wrong as they're doing them wrong, and not slapping them on the wrist, but showing them as a teaching environment. It says, you know what, that was great. I love the fact that you were trying to take care of a customer, but this is another way that you might want to look at it. And be able to work with them. And yes, it takes effort. Yes, it does that. But
It's
how much?
uncomfortable too,
It's
right?
uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
here's the thing is, what is it costing companies year after year from the minute somebody quits to the minute you finally get somebody ramped up and ready to deal with your customers and you're comfortable leaving them on their own, in terms of lost production? I mean, think of the thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars that are lost in any company, even small companies, on a yearly basis because of that 18-month churn. And if you can get rid of that 18-month churn, and if you can get people to sit there and say, you know what, here's where your progression is. This is where we see you going. This is how we think we can get you there. This is how we're going to invest in you to make sure that you do get there. Those people are going to stay longer, and they're going to be way more engaged, and they're going to be way more productive, and they're going to be better champions of your brand, and they're going to bring in other employees who are their friends that are going to be just as engaged and passionate as they are.
Yep. Agreed. Out of respect for your time, let's transition to another question where as I was combing through your LinkedIn profile, I saw someone's name and I said, whoa, he worked with Seth Godin.
I did.
In a way. Like, he is, I don't know, who's the right rock star? Maybe the David Bowie of rock, in that he has stood out for a generation now in a way where when he first came out, I could, he was almost considered like a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
Like his philosophy wouldn't stick, but it stuck, and it actually infiltrated other areas. Like it was a true robust philosophy on marketing.
Yeah.
So what was it like working with him?
Uh, it was an accident. It was a wonderful accident. About 2 years ago, I decided to take his course called the Marketing Seminar, which is 50 videos over 100 days of Seth, giving you snippets into his brain. And the beautiful thing about it is he gives you the snippets of his brains, asks you a question, and then puts you into this room. There's a social media room with 1,800 of your fellow, competitors, and sit there and go, okay, talk amongst yourselves. And the discussions that happened and the thoughts that happened and the growth that happened was amazing. And what I didn't realize is that Seth is watching and the statistics in the background are absolutely amazing. And what I didn't realize is I was consistently probably one of the top 5 contributors on this board of 1,800 people, like week after week after week after week after week. Because I learn by teaching. By teaching others, I learn myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figure if I can give to other people, I'm teaching myself at the same time. Well, I'm sitting having coffee, and I get this phone call, and I look down at my phone, and it actually says Seth Godin on my on my caller display. I'm like, all right, who spoofed the number?
Mm-hmm.
And hi, it's Seth. Hi, Seth. Well, I've noticed that you've really been doing a great job on this course. We're teaching this again in the summer as an accelerated course. I'd really like you to be a facilitator, for the summer session. Well, I would have done it for free. He actually paid me to do this, which was absolutely amazing. But for 3.5 months, I got to sit there and be the facilitator to help guide questions, move people around, introduce people to other people. When people were stuck, help, giving them hints of which direction they should go, things like that, and be able to move the conversation around. And I did that for him for about 3.5 months, and it was an incredible experience.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, did I have any one-on-one time with Seth? Very little, if any. He was gracious enough to be on my podcast at the time. It's called the Your Living Brand live show. It's now on iHeartRadio, but at the time it was a podcast. I think his episode was November 2017, if I remember correctly. But what it allowed me to do was to be able to sit there and go, I was part of the journey. And it was a phenomenal, eye-opening experience to be able to sit there and say, help other people learn and help other people be more successful.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And that's what I love.
I can imagine him saying hello because he has a very unique voice and inflection as well. Yeah. So
hi, it's Seth.
You would have known right away it was him.
Immediately. And I went, wait, what?
Yeah. I remember, I've read a lot of his books. His Linchpin book really stood out because there was a line in there, basically like as a business operator, your job is to basically organize chaos. Like it's to take chaos and to control it.
Yeah.
Right. And that is what we do. Like we're business. When a business is running successfully, it just looks like it's on autopilot. But in the background, making sausage is hard. It's always messy.
It's very messy.
Yeah, the really good people can make it look really easy, but it's never really easy.
No, it's an illusion. I mean, the wonderful thing is it's the visual of the swan, where the swan looks elegant and poised and beautiful above the surface, but you look underneath and those legs are just paddling like crazy.
Good one. This is the part of the podcast, so I transition over, ask you a few personal questions. Something I ask to everybody is, what tools or techniques do you use to stay productive and or organized?
I would say the number one thing I use, besides a CRM, I couldn't live without a CRM.
Do you have one in particular that you like?
You know what? I use Act only because I've used Act for 20 years. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that I've grown up with. It works for me. It integrates with Outlook. It does what I need it to do. As a single person company, it does everything I need. I've looked at pretty much all of them, and I've come to the conclusion as until this really breaks down and it's really ineffective for me, I'll continue to use it. But is it the best? Is it Is it cloud-based? No. Does it have, a lot of things? You really have to do a lot of workarounds to make it work. But the thing is, I look at how much time and effort it's going to take me to move over to something else. And I'm far more valuable as a single person just dealing with it, what it is, and creating the workarounds with it. So it's good. It's not great.
Yeah.
Dropbox is something I couldn't live without. Could not live without Dropbox. I mean, the fact that I can be anywhere in the world, somebody asks me for a file, and it's 10 seconds on my phone and I have it. I had a client the other day say, that thing that we did in 2014? I said, yeah. It says, would you like to see the artwork? He goes, you still have it? I said, yeah, I have the original digital files and I have the PDFs. Which one do you want to see? And it's just, because I have 2 terabytes of storage, it doesn't matter. It's there and it's safe and it's backed up. And I don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
And I've got 2 different backups. I use one. Oh God, now I'm trying to remember what the other software I use is. Hang on a second here. Isn't that terrible? I can't remember. Called Carbonite. I use something called Carbonite, and Carbonite is a continual backup of all the computers in my office. It's constantly doing a backup in the background. So if anything ever goes down, I've got a mere copy of my hard drive at any given time.
Yeah.
So those are probably the biggest ones that I use. I mean, there's probably 50 apps that I use on a regular basis. There's a couple other pieces of software that I use on a regular basis. I mean, I use the calendar within Outlook on the Office 365, and that works great for people being able to book time in my calendar whenever I want. Mm-hmm. I use Zoom. I mean, like this, I use Zoom on a daily basis. But those are probably the best ones that I use on a daily basis to make my life easier.
On the book side,
yes.
I know you're a prolific writer. So let's break up the books into 2 parts. Which books would you recommend for branding and marketing? And why don't we throw in yours as well?
Yeah, I mean, my book is called Powerful Personal Brands. I wrote it. It's a workbook. It's a 200-page workbook. It's available on Amazon. If you go to powerfulpersonalbrands.com, you can download a free chapter of it. And what it's designed to do is, on a personal level, to be able to sit there and say, who are you, what do you do, why do you do it, and why should somebody care? And what I've done is I've asked a question at the end of each chapter and put 2 or 3 pages of blank lines for you to write your own thoughts. And that's the fun of the book. The new book I'm writing, I'm just doing the research on it, is Retaining Rockstar Employees. Mm-hmm. And that I'm hoping to come out in 2020. So in terms of marketing, sales books, Seth Godin is probably a linchpin. Purple Cow are 2 greats. He's just come up with a brand new book, and I haven't read it yet. It's on my pile. I've ordered it. It's shown up from Amazon. I just haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I can't recommend it yet. There's 2 great books that I always recommend for sales. One is called Getting to Yes, and the other one is called Getting Past No. And they're both by the same 2 guys, Fry and Uri. And they're those books have got to be 30 years old, but they're as relevant today as they were when they first came out. Yep.
Because no matter what the platform, you're still selling to a human being. They're still going to have the same objections. You still have to have the same methods to actively listen and handle those objections. So I will put all of those in the show notes. And how about any books that have been personally influential? And that could be for your business life or even your personal life.
Books that I've enjoyed over the times. I mean, I really love Michener. I love Leon Uris. To me, I'm a big fan of historical fiction. Mm-hmm. Historical fiction is probably because there's always lessons to be learned. It's always, what I love is people that can sit there and take an actual historical event, and it's a fictional thing around it, but the guys that are really good at researching the event itself and be able to sit there and say, okay, this is what was going on in the background. well this story that I've concocted is created. But it's those historical nuggets. It's the insight into the past and the lessons that I've learned from them that are probably the best.
Yeah. Are there any periods of time that are more intriguing than others
I mean,
for you?
I'm a big fan of World War II. I'm a big fan of basically the turn of the century to the end of World War One is an interesting time, especially in the Middle East. Just to sit there and say, okay, the whole time of the Ottoman Empire and everything that went along with that, and how that changed. Because if you look at the breakup of the Ottoman Empire, it really shows us where we are today. A lot of the turmoil and historical tension that you see today in the Middle East comes from that period of time.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Like, I just think historical fiction is just so useful. And I think a lot of the conflict we have today, not only like actual conflict, but just interpersonal conflict of us misunderstanding each other, is because we can't put any historical relevance to it. We don't understand it. It becomes like a chicken and egg thing.
Yeah.
Who started it first, and these stories are very deep, and it was funny because the Game of Thrones just ended.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched it, but the very end, when the Stark lady decided that the North was not going to be part of the Seven Kingdoms, the North was going to be an independent state, I immediately thought that's kind of like how Scotland went.
Exactly.
Like, there's a historical connection there. Like, you can understand why Scotland is just so forceful in wanting to have some sort of independence.
Yeah.
Because of all of the other things, basically all the other shit that's happened to them over time.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
It just so makes sense. This has been a wonderful conversation.
I've enjoyed it. I have absolutely enjoyed this.
Yeah, I'd like to have you on again. I'd like to. I just think brand and culture. It's just so underestimated, understated, underrespected. I think people talk a good game, but they don't really know what it takes in order to do this stuff. So I'd like to spread your message even more.
Nick, thank you very much for having me on the show. I've absolutely enjoyed this. Love the conversation. And we got to get you on the YourLivingBrand.live show.
Let's do it. You heard it, everybody.
There we go. It's done.
Let's make that happen. My guest this week has been Ben Baker. Thank you so much, Ben.
Hey, thank you.